Let's welcome to the set, David Goggins.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Thank you, David. It was, every now and then I come across a guest that I see on a different media channel, and I watched you on Impact Theory, and you blew me away. In fact, a random fact is David and I are the first two ever guests on Impact Theory to come back and do a second recording on Impact Theory. And when I was there in Tom Bilyeu's studio to do that second recording, on the table next to me in the dressing room, I saw a plaque that said, "Congratulations to David Goggins for hitting 1 million views."
Right.
So I'm like, who is this guy? 1 million views? I gotta check it out. And I checked it out, and man, that is one of my favorite Impact Theory episodes of all time.
I appreciate it.
So let's get started, David. One of the things that is most remarkable about you, in addition to all the records that you've hit, right, is where you came from.
Right.
Tell us about that. Tell us about where that drive, that intensity comes from.
Well, it comes from a real place. You know, the kind of passion that I bring to my life is something that you can't just make up. It has to come from the sewer. And that's how I look at my life. I came from the sewer. You know, I didn't have these great parents. You know, I didn't have this great education. I didn't have a real loving family. You know, I can't remember how many I can probably count on one hand how many times we say, "I love you" in my household. So my dad was a very abusive man. He would wake up and start drinking. You know, he loved scotch. He'd wake up in the morning time, start drinking scotch. When he'd get drunk, he'd get violent. And so from the time I was born to the time I was 8 years old, I experienced some serious beatdowns from, and you never know when, it wasn't like he had to do something really bad. It wasn't like that. Just being alive made him upset. So that's how I lived for about 8 years, just getting beat like that from my father. And then when that ended, I was 8 years old, we moved to a small town called Brazil, Indiana, and that started another nightmare. And what's funny about that is that we lived in Buffalo, New York, where all this started at. We lived in a place called, it was 201 Paradise Road. 201 Paradise Road was the name of our street. And it's funny because it was nothing, it was the first thing from paradise. It was absolute hell. You know, imagine waking up in the morning time as a kid and all you know is, am I gonna get beat today? And the whippings weren't like, I'm gonna give you like 3 whippings, just like 3 across your butt, whatever. They were like serious beatdowns to the point where my mom had to write letters to school, excusing me from class because I was so bruised up. So that was the beginning of my life. So with that kind of foundation, to take that broken foundation, because you want to build a house on a good foundation. When you have a seriously broken foundation and you go to a small town in Brazil, Indiana, where there's a lot of racism there, and in my book, I have a lot of pictures. Like people, oh my God, you didn't come up like that. Even people from that town didn't believe that Brazil was that bad. No one wants to really, see, because no one's you. No one's you. No one hears what you hear. No one sees what you see. No one's living the way you're living. And they assume what they want to assume because their life's a certain way. And so now I'm in Brazil, coming from Buffalo, and that started a whole nother hell for me. And I started realizing I had a learning disability. A lot of it was from toxic stress. So I don't believe I so much had a disability in learning. I believe that when my foundation was so broken as a young kid, all that toxic stress caused a whole bunch of issues. So stuttering, patches of hair falling out, white spots on I still have these white spots on my skin.
How old were you when all of this was happening?
So like I said, it was, I was born in 1975. We left in 1983, so I was about 8 years old in Buffalo, and that was nothing but beatdowns there. But worse than the beatdowns, there was a lot of mental torture from my dad. My dad was a great psychiatrist. He was almost a shrink.
Right.
Even though he wasn't, he was good at getting in your head, because weak people are really good at getting in your head, because they don't want to ever see you get, like he was really bad on my mom. They never want to see you get above them. A weak person wants to always keep you,
pull you down.
Yes, beneath them.
Right.
And I started realizing that. So as a young kid, I was taking notes, even though I wasn't the smartest kid because my brain didn't want to learn. It was caught in this hell. So, but I was taking notes on everything. What makes this man this way? What makes this man this way? So that was up until I was 8. And then when I was 8, we moved to Brazil, Indiana. And then from 8 until I graduated, it was just a lot of hell. It was one thing after another. God always put another obstacle in front of me. So whenever I thought I was getting over one obstacle, the next one would come up.
And it wasn't just the bruises. I remember in your book, Can't Hurt Me,
Right.
you spoke about how you had to cover the bruises because the more bruises these kids in school would see, the more they'd want to beat
Right.
up on you. But it was the racism. I mean, you were growing up in like KKK territory, right?
Right.
Tell us about that.
So Brazil, Indiana was about 10 minutes from a small town called Center Point, Indiana. And if you look it up online, Center Point, Indiana, 1995, you'll see a great picture of Center Point, Indiana in 1995. You'll see some pictures of people burning crosses, the Klan burning crosses. This is 1995. So now, in that town, now I'm not for sure how racist Brazil was, but Center Point was where a lot of it came from. So those kids and those parents in Center Point, those kids went to my school.
Right.
So those kids traveled that 10 minutes, went to Brazil, Indiana, and they went to my school. And they grew up in hate. So all they knew was hate. So they put that hate on me and a few other black kids. So there's about 5 black kids that went to my high school. So I was one of 5. I think there's about 2,000 kids in my school. And, one time, I came out of class one day and I saw my brown citation and it had, "Nigger, we're going to kill you," spray painted on it. So these are some things like I hear about bullying nowadays. And stuff like this, if it happened now, it'd be all over CNN News. Back then, my mom was working 3 jobs. By now, her fiance, she was about to get, married December, right after Christmas. And it was when I was 14 years old. She was about to get married, and he got murdered.
Fuck.
So my soon-to-be new role model in my life got murdered. And so fast forward now, my mom's working 3 jobs. We just moved out of a $7 a month place. So, we lived there for about 3 or 4 years, and now we live in this decent house. And, but it was always just a constant struggle. But I never put my fears and insecurities on my mother. Because I saw her come up. My dad drug her down the stairs by her hair. She was constantly getting beat. And so when you're a young kid and you see this, you want to protect your mom. So my instinct wasn't like to get help. Tell your mom this is how your life is. She never saw one report card of mine. She didn't know that I was going to flunk out of school. She didn't know how bad things were. I never told my mom that I'm getting called nigger all the time. First of all, it's not cool to be bullied.
Right.
So I had 2 different David Gogginses. I had the David Goggins that was afraid, that was very timid and afraid. And I had the David Goggins that walked around like he was cool, that nothing hurt him. That was the fake guy.
So even as a young man, you had to create this fake identity to
Yes.
protect you from the brutality of the world you were living in, because you had a father who was abusive.
Right.
Your mom's fiance was murdered.
Right.
You were beaten up in school. You were in a racist school, like one of only 5 black kids in a school with 2,000 white kids
Right.
in KKK territory, and you were called a nigger all your life.
Right. Well, I have to be real clear on this. What's funny about that is that I was a pretty popular kid in that school. That's the thing. When you look back on it, all you see is the racism. You don't see the popularity of the kids that liked you. The power in being able to calm your mind down and think, that's one thing I learned in my life, is that when I was in hell, I wasn't able to be in hell and be calm. Hell makes you anxious. Hell makes you want to get out of it. It's that person who has the ability to be in hell and think very calmly, very rationally about what the hell is going on. What's the truth? What's the reality? Why is my dad this way? Why are these kids calling me nigger? Why? You have to be able to piece people apart. Take it down, dissect it, and see what's going on. So back then, I didn't have those skills. I had no skills. All I saw was a whole bunch of kids liked me, but I no longer saw that. All I saw was the spray painting on my car, me being called nigger. That's all I saw. My lens was this big. It was very small fucking lens. When now my lens is huge. I see everybody for who they are and what they are. So that's the one thing that changed in me was my reality. We always paint a fucked up reality. That's not even true. It's reality what we think is true because our lives aren't what we want it to be.
Now, you took suffering and you made that a superpower.
Yes.
And one of the things that make you David Goggins, right, is your belief in suffering in order to grow.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, I realized that God wasn't going to give me a get out of jail free card. And from the time I was born into the time I was 19 years old, my life had these hurdles. I constantly hit obstacles, obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. And I had to figure out how to manage suffering, how to deal with it, because it'd be part of my life forever. At least that's what I thought. So in order to deal with it, I had to be able to conquer it and overcome it and deal with it and know that in this suffering, there has to be some kind of growth. With every obstacle, I look at it as friction now. Without friction, there is no growth. You have to have friction in your life to grow. So I started looking at all these different things versus the woe is me mentality. Like, oh my God, look at my life. My life's so fucked up. I come from this fucked up family. I'm being beaten. I'm being abused mentally, physically. I started looking at it as the perfect trial ground. So I had to flip it upside down and say, okay, I'm suffering tremendously, mentally. Use this to your advantage versus your disadvantage. So that's what I did. Versus looking at it as like, oh my God, woe is me, I'm never gonna get out of here. I looked at it as, okay, hang on a second. If I can overcome this, if I can find some power in this, some way to get through this, that right there will be the fuel for the rest of my life. And so I found great strength in suffering. Great strength in it because why? Through all of that, it started to callous my mind over the victim's mentality.
You know, and there's interesting data on that, which is why I find what you're saying so interesting. So in Salim Ismail's book, Exponential Organizations, there's this quote that blew me away. So he was studying all of these companies, and he shares the study of Google. And Google wanted to figure out what makes their best people, right? And at first, they thought it was STEM education, science, technology, engineering, math.
Right.
But then what they found it was their best people were people who had gone through suffering.
Yes.
Suffering made people more humble. It made people more kind. It made people more sensitive to others,
Yes.
more empathetic. So the best people at Google were young people who had gone through some suffering
Yes.
at some point, and they emerged out of that.
Right. It allows me to do this interview with you. I mean, I used to stutter so badly, I couldn't do anything. I had no self-esteem at all. Through suffering, but recognizing. You have to recognize what you've gone through. And that right there gave me pride. I realized that very few people could turn upside down what I did. I was able to turn upside down every negative thing in my life. Everything, and use it for power.
You said suffering is a true test of life.
To me, it's one of the biggest tests of life.
Now you also said that motivation is crap.
Yes.
It's about drive. I was a scared kid, and I found drive and passion.
Yes. The reason why I say motivation is crap, because a lot of people will listen to this, and they'll be motivated. They'll be fired up. They'll be so fired up it's not even funny. But what I realized in life is to have that motivation. Motivation is just kindling. It starts to fire. But that kindling, once one raindrop hits that little kindling, it's burnt out. That's motivation. So right now, I'm giving you a spark. You're giving people a spark. There's a whole bunch of sparks out here. But it has to be something that's deep down inside. So motivation is like this. If you're married and your wife is okay and your bills are paid and the kids are good and the dog's good, if everything is good, you can find some motivation. Because why? Your life is happy. It's that motherfucker that wakes up in the sewer every fucking day, has nothing to fucking go home to, has nothing. Bills aren't paid, doesn't know when the fucking next meal's coming, doesn't know shit, and still says, fuck it. I am going to do what I have to do to get to where the fuck I have to go. That's the difference between motivation and drive, and then soon, obsession. Obsession makes other people, like, so when you're around somebody that's obsessed, most people don't have any fucking idea what to call you. So they call you crazy. They call you crazy because they don't understand where you're trying to go.
Right.
What the fuck you're trying to do, what you're trying to be. So to the normal person, which we're all normal, we're all very normal. What makes people different is a flip in their fucking mindset. Once they turn that mindset to a point where they no longer want to be so-called normal, that's when you start to find out that motivation is not enough. It's not enough. You have to be that person who, no matter what's going on, if you're a big-time runner, you don't care what temperature is. Like a bunch of people I run with, guess what they do every morning? Every night, they look to see what the fucking temperature is going to be tomorrow.
Right.
What's the temperature going to be? So am I going to run inside or am I going to run outside? A person that's obsessed and wants to just get there, they don't give a fuck what the temperature is. They no longer care because they know no matter what's out there, no matter if it's snowing, if it's a damn tropical storm, if it's 20 below, they're going to run. They don't care. So there's no need to waste the time to look.
Right.
I'm just going to go. And that's how you want to get your mind. It doesn't matter what the fuck's out there, what's in front of me. Because a motivated person is going to look. Because that weather is going to fucking change their motivation. Up or down. Oh, it's 70 and sunny. I'm motivated. Oh, it's 30 and a blizzard. Fuck that. I'm going to go inside. An obsessed person doesn't care. They get the fucking job done.
Because they're obsessed with what?
With being great.
Obsessed with being great.
And whatever great is.
And I love that you're sharing this because just before we started recording this, Jason Campbell, who's a host here at Mind Valley, he hosts a show called Impact at Work. He was telling us a funny story about watching your video. So Jason just ran a freaking Spartan race with 4 other people from my company in the middle of a typhoon in the Philippines. And while there were travel warnings, do not go to the Philippines, typhoon is about to hit, and many people backed out of that race, freaking Jason decided, fuck it, I'm gonna run 23 kilometers Spartan race obstacle course in the middle of a typhoon after watching you speak about this topic.
And you know the power of that? Yes, I'm not saying do that. Not. A lot of people get my words and they twist them all up and they get all confused. Don't get confused. What happened in that race for that guy? What happened? On the other end, so this whole thing about suffering, yeah, it sucks. Really bad. Really, really bad. But we all live on this side of suffering. On this side. This nice box that's very comfortable that we know when everything's going to happen. We're in it. It's good. We know how everything's going to turn out. It's those few people who are willing to go on this side of suffering. And once they get through that, ask him how he feels now. His mind, how far he grew in that short period of time. During that typhoon, during that storm, he finished that race. He grew so much more than the normal person because he was willing to go outside himself. Because on the other end of suffering is greatness. It's not over here. So a whole bunch of us, we put ourselves in this great box. And in that box, there's no suffering in it. So what we do is we shelter ourselves from greatness. So for me, for instance, I was 300 damn pounds at one time in my life. Spray for cockroaches. Made $1,000 a month. I was living in that box. I would sometimes look over the box and I saw hell, suffering, storms, avalanches, tornadoes. I don't want to go over there. But I knew if I can get through that shit mentally, on the other side was a 185-pound person who's a Navy SEAL, went through Ranger School. Only person to do this, only person to do that, only person to do this. But that's through all of that shit. All that shit I have to go through. So you peek over the box and you go back in and say, oh, I'm okay being 300 pounds, making $1,000 a month. Right. I'm okay over here.
Because that hurdle is suffering.
Suffering.
And when you're willing to go past suffering and see that suffering is one of the best ways you can grow, that you can overcome. Because you can suffer for the long term. You can suffer slowly, or you can go through pain and then experience what's on the other side.
And on the other side is where you start to really start your journey. People think they start their journey because they're born. No, there's a lot of people in graves who have lived 100 years and have never started their real journey. Your real journey starts when you go outside that box and you start climbing mountains. You start climbing mountains. And you think you're at the top of the mountain. You go down the other side of it, think, I'm here. And you look up, fuck, there's another fucking mountain. And it goes on, and it goes on, and it goes on. And just when you're getting ready to quit, you crest that final mountain, you get down and you look, and there you are. And it starts to make sense to you then. It doesn't make sense to you until you get outside that fucking box. I'll talk to so many fucking people, and what I say is not for everybody. So many people don't have any clue on what the fuck I'm saying because they're in this box. And it's their brain. The mind's a very powerful thing. It has a tactical advantage over you all the time. It knows your fears.
Right.
It knows your insecurities. It knows where you don't want to go. So it will guide you away from that. And that's why the mind will always win until you reprogram it. It will always win until you fucking reprogram it. Because the mind controls you. Why is that? It's your fucking mind. It's your mind. Because all those things that happen to you in your life, all those bad things, all those things that you blame other people for, they're now yours to own. You got to figure out a way to reprogram your mind to get outside the box.
And so 3 things, folks, for those of you who are taking notes and paying attention, 3 things I got of what David just said. And I'm just connecting the dots between everyone else we've brought onto the show. The first is that study from Google. Suffering makes us better people. The best performers in frickin' Google were young people who had gone through some pain in their life. And when you look at life like that, you see that sometimes pain can be a gift. Pain makes us who we are. And people who have gone through suffering, they come out of that. And they can bitch and they can whine, or they can look back at that suffering and reflect upon what they learned. And it seems that that's what you did. Right? So there is an advantage on the other side of that dark tunnel. Now, the second thing is that when you put yourself through suffering, it changes your self-identity. When you willingly put yourself through suffering, that's what Jason did when he ran that Spartan race in the typhoon, because for the rest of his life, someone could dump him. He could be put down by someone else. He could have self-doubts. But he's the fucking guy who ran a Spartan race in a fucking typhoon. That's right? And that identity will never leave him because it's true. So when you put yourself through something like that, you're earning a badge, right? You know how when you were in the military, you would get all of these badges? That's a badge. And that badge, no one can ever take away from you, because that's your story. And that is something that's something that's going to hold you up from all the other shit you go through in life. Now, the third thing that I wanted to share is I was interviewing Marissa Peer. She's a famous British hypnotherapist, and she works with Olympians. She works with celebrities. And, she spoke about, in one of our previous episodes, she spoke about 5 things that make top performers top performers. And one of the things she observed is that all of these top performers, they willingly put themselves through suffering. She said, now this was a big lesson for me, because I was one of those people where I would get up and I knew I had to go to the gym or exercise 3 times a week. And sometimes I'd get up and I'd make these excuses. Nah, I'm too busy today. I don't feel like it. I have a bit of the sniffles. Maybe I shouldn't exacerbate that. And Marissa changed me in one freaking interview. She said, the greatest people in the world know that you don't do things always because they are fun. Sometimes you will do things because they are painful, because you know that is what is going to make you who you are. So great performers, they willingly, openly, consciously do things which are painful because they know that pain is going to get them to the next level. That flipped my mind. I never skipped a gym day again.
You know what's funny about that, though, about the second thing you said about the badge? It's a true statement. But it's also, there's a caveat to that. It's a big caveat to that. That badge is earned. We earn the badge. We go through the typhoon. We go through the Spartan race. We do whatever we do in life. We earn the badge. But a lot of us never want to go back again. The badge can be earned and also forgotten. That's why you have to go back every single day. Because the mind is a very powerful thing. It doesn't want to go there. It doesn't want to suffer. It doesn't want to suffer. So once you suffer once or twice or 3 times, you're good. Do you think that sticks with you forever? It doesn't. If you stop reading right now, you stop running, you stop going to the gym, you stop mathematics, stop anything, you forgot the equation. You forget the equation. You could be the best person in your damn math class, but you go back 4 or 5 years later, God, I got an A in this. What? I don't remember this. It goes for everything you do in life, especially suffering. If you do not suffer on a constant basis. Now, and I'm not saying go out there and run on broken legs. Suffering is different for everybody. And suffering is just being very uncomfortable a lot. People want to know, how did you get so mentally tough, David Goggins? How did you get there? How did you get there? By exactly what that hypnotherapist said. There was no mental toughness tricks back then. There was no training back when I grew up. This whole mental toughness crave, this came around years after I became who I was. It was just doing. Whatever my mind said I don't want to do, I realized I must do that. Because what got me where I was at, 300 pounds, spraying for cockroaches, a loser, not going to school, I was doing exactly what made me feel good. And it got me exactly where I was at, nowhere. When I started taking this other path over here, the path that I didn't want to go on, the path of most resistance, I started realizing, my God, this sucks like hell over here. It's so painful and it's scary. It's dark. It's lonely. There's very few people over here. That's when I started realizing, my God, but look at the growth I have. Look what's happening to me. I'm losing weight. I'm smarter. I have confidence. I have courage. The self-discipline I have. The ability to face myself in the morning. The ability to win the war in the morning. I'm winning the war every morning. Every morning I get up, people think I have some special ability to get up and just work out every day. Nope. I now realize what my mind is going to do. I now control my mind. Versus the inner dialogue you had about, I work out 3 days a week, I'm not going to go today. I have the same dialogue. But now I know it's like breathing air. I must do this. Because I know on the other side of this, I know there's greatness over there.
Wow. So take us through that dialogue. When you're running these intense, crazy ultra marathons, right? Like Badwater.
Right.
Or any other example.
Right.
What's going through your head when you're about to hit that wall?
So I hit a lot of walls in a 135-mile race through Death Valley in the summertime, a whole bunch of them. What we just talked about, it all comes back to mindset. And a lot of us talk about self-talk. Self-talk is big nowadays. It's big. But a lot of us are self-talking lies without having put in the fucking work. When you get to the time where you need to draw on this self-talk, it's a fucking lie. Mine's truth. So where I go to at mile 75 of a 135-mile race, and I'm broke down and my feet are blistered up and I'm all just jacked up, my nutrition's messed up and I'm cramping and I'm horrible. Worst shape of my life. And I have to go another 65 more miles, 70, whatever it may be. I take that time, like I talked about being calm and calming my mind down in hell. Because when you're at mile 75 in the worst shape of your fucking life, your mind spazzes. It realizes I'm going 135 miles and at 75, I can barely fucking move. I'm fucked. So your mind says, we're done. The end is too fucking far away. So you start drawing on all these different tools. The tools don't fucking work for you if you haven't put the time in. So what I'm doing now is I'm calming my mind down before I start self-talking. And I start to reflect back on all the years I put into making myself who I am today. All the hours, all the months I put in for training for that race. All the 3 o'clock in the morning times I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning and my feet were so fucked up and I was so just sore from the night before that I'm sitting there just looking at my running shoes like this. And then an hour later, I put them on. That's what I'm thinking about. All those days to get me to this fucking moment right now at mile 75 where I'm all fucked up. What the fuck are you thinking now? That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that will not be for fucking nothing. We're going to figure out a way to get through this. And that's what happens. But the truth comes up. The reality comes up of what I did. If I didn't put the time in, if I didn't have 20 times looking at my shoes when I want to go do it, and I still did it, it's to doing it when you don't want to do it. That is what inches you forward. Right. That is the needle mover. It's doing it when you fucking don't want to do it. And this isn't something you can fucking visit, man. There's people that want to visit my world and visit this world of like the everyday sufferer. They visit it. They get a 20 visits at a fucking gym. Oh, I had a fucking 20 visits at the gym. I'm good. I did a Spartan race. I did this. No. It's every fucking day. You can't visit this world. You get nothing from it. You get a little trophy on the fucking wall. Good for you, man. Good job.
Every fucking day. I like that.
You cannot visit the world.
Now this reminds me of something else that you speak about, right? And, you know, when our mutual friend Tom Billy was interviewing you for Impact Theory, you spoke about being in Afghanistan. And Tom asked you, like, what do you do when you're asked to, like, crash through this door and you don't know what's on the other side of that door? 4 dudes with AK-47s ready to mow you down, or a trigger device that's going to blow off your legs. And you spoke about how if you choose to do something, you attack it. Let's go there.
So it was Iraq I was talking about, but basically it is having a very violence of action mentality. And it's having a focused mentality. So imagine this. Imagine that I'm about to, and this is for anybody. This isn't just for a soldier with a gun. War doesn't mean you have a gun. You're always at war up here. This just to give you an example of mentality. The further you're away from something, the calmer you are. The closer you get to that, whatever that thing is that you're about to attack, the more you start to ramp up. So let's say the door is 20 feet away from me. I'm calm, but I'm single focused on what I need to do. I'm not thinking about what's behind that fucking door. I'm thinking about I need to open the door. So I'm reading the door. I'm reading that door because if I get to the door and I'm pushing versus pulling, because it may be a door that you have to pull versus push.
Right.
Now whoever's behind that door, whoever's behind the door, they know I'm coming. But to even draw it back even further than that, as I'm getting closer to that door, I'm not thinking about wife, kids, family, anything. Everything in your life has to start honing in, single focused, hyper focused on the task at hand. You can't be this person out here who is, like nowadays, we're really big on being a multitasker. Sometimes in life you have to learn to focus on the single point. And that's what happens here. So now my aggression is going higher. My focus is getting better. I'm reading the door. My mind is where it needs to be. It's not back at home. I'm in Iraq right now. Or I'm in, wherever I'm at. This is where I'm at now. Whatever's happening at home is happening at home. Now, it's all about locking into that moment. And that's where you start to harness this strength. Slowly getting closer and closer and closer to the object in front of you. Once you read that door, now you're thinking, okay, I read the door right. Now, I can't think about what's behind the door. Still now. Once you open the door, now it's about doing your job. My job isn't, let's say there's a bunch of people like AK-47s in front of me. I can't attack them. My job is to clear this left corner. Even if a guy's an AK-47 in front of me, my job is to clear my fucking corner. So you have to, once again, retrain your brain to take care of whatever needs to be taken care of. And everything you cannot control, fuck it. Fuck it. I can't control my wife at home right now. My kids at home right now. I can't control that. All I can control is the 20 feet between me and this door. Now the 20 feet's collapsed. Now I can control the door. Now I can control my corner. There's a lot of things in life we try to control that we can't control, and it takes us away from our fucking focus.
Man, you're right.
And that's the whole thing about this imagery here. In Iraq, I cannot control what's happening back in Nashville, Tennessee. It's out of my control. So why is your fucking mind there? Why is your mind there? That's what gets people in that situation killed. But in life itself, it pulls us away from the task at fucking hand. We worry about all this meaningless bullshit. Like when I was in Brazil, in those few kids, at that time it was everybody. All 10,000 people in fucking Brazil called me a nigger. It wasn't. It was a handful of racist kids. But my reality wasn't there. I didn't see the picture I see now. And that's what all this is about, is seeing the real picture in front of you. What can you truly control? Control that and move forward.
And you can control living life with a sense of discipline
Period.
and focus. And let's go back to this other key idea that you brought up, which is a powerful message, guys. I want you to write this down. If you can do things you hate to do, on the other side is greatness. Right? You quoted that in one of your interviews.
100%.
Let's talk about that for a moment. I think you referred to it as the warrior mindset.
So, a lot of us are familiar with Navy SEALs. I was a Navy SEAL for 15 years. I was a polarizing person in the SEAL teams. Either you really like me or you fucking hate me. I started realizing why that is. And that goes for, I'm that way with everybody. And this is why I believe in the warrior mindset. It's that person, so for instance, guys go to Navy SEAL training. Arguably some of the hardest training in the world. They get that trident. They kick the shit out of you during training. They make you not even want to go back to the water. They make you not so much afraid, they make you really respect the code to the point where you only do it if you have to do it. That's the kind of mindset right there that I don't have. I do it because I have to do it every day, not because the job is making me do it. That's the warrior mindset. The warrior mindset is that person that is doing things that they don't want to do every single day. And it always goes back to that. A lot of people earn, like for instance, the Spartan race.
Right.
Good for you, man. What are you doing today? That's the warrior mindset. A warrior crosses a finish line and continues to run in his mind. There is no finish line. There is no finish line. There is no true accomplishment yet. A lot of times we live in this fucking accomplishment world. Like let's say I did Badwater. I won the 135-mile race. I'm going to enjoy this for a while. No. I'm not saying don't enjoy it. What are you going to do fucking tomorrow?
Right.
This day is over. A warrior realizes this accomplishment is over. It's over.
Embrace it.
And
Be
move
happy
on.
about it, but move on and do the next thing.
Exactly. So I became a Navy SEAL, and I became this, and I became this, and I became this. Do not live in that moment. Get out of it as fast as you can, because it will suck you in, and that will become who you are. Just that moment.
Now this is a good time to talk about the cookie jar versus the jar of fuck.
Right.
Tell us about that.
So the cookie jar is something I invented. I invented a whole mess of shit to get me through life. Big on visualization, big on self-talk, but as I talked about before, it has to be real. So the cookie jar is something I invented because I realized at a young age I was a pussy. And I had to develop an indestructible mental toolbox to get through my life. Because I didn't like what I saw in the fucking mirror. A lot of us are able to look in the mirror on a daily basis. I was a big liar growing up. And I can say that now because I overcame myself. I was a liar because I wanted everybody to like me. So I would tell you whatever the fuck you wanted to hear. Because in my mind, I wasn't a very liked kid. In my mind. So I wanted a cool kid in my mind. Like I said, you start to create these things. So to get through all these different things, I started developing these tactics, these different tools, these different tricks. And one was the cookie jar. And right now, like I talked about the race, the Spartan race, you're going to forget that. Trust me. When your life gets fucking hard and life is coming at you, you will panic and you will forget who the fuck you are. Trust me. Me, I've been in 3 Navy SEAL Hell Weeks. I've been through 60 ultra races, pull-up records, tons of failures, all this shit. In that moment when life comes at you the fucking hardest, do you think you sit back and think about a fucking Spartan race? No. You should. That's what the cookie jar is for. This mental cookie jar. You know how your mom would buy these cookies and have this big old fucking jar and she just like start dumping shit in there. And then when that got empty, she put some Oreos in there. And then the next month, maybe some Chips Ahoy, whatever. You don't know what kind of fucking cookie you're going to get out of that thing. So for me, we grew up kind of poor. So those cookies I savored. So that's why I talk about the cookie jar. So for me, it's like a fortune cookie now. When times get real fucking bad for me in life, and I start going down that fucking rabbit hole of shit, man, my life sucks. I'm not strong anymore. The strongest person become weak. I go back to the mental cookie jar and I say, hang on a second, man. Before you become a total bitch, let's take a second and think about this, man. Is this that difficult that's in front of you? I go back in the mental cookie jar, pull out a cookie, open up this fortune cookie that says, you went through 3 hell weeks. You endured Brazil. Your stepfather got murdered. You learned all of high school in 6 months because you cheated all through school just to get in the military. You start to remind yourself of who the fuck you are. Because in the worst of times, when life is its worst, you don't remember how badass you are. All you know is right now life is kicking my fucking ass. And no one's coming to save you. There's not like call your shrink on the fucking phone, hey, hey, who am I? No, sorry. You have yourself. And that's the thing I realized. I developed all these different tools because in the worst of fucking times, you are alone. You must get your fucking self out of the fucking sewer. No one's coming in that fucking sewer to get you. It's dark. It's nasty. There's rats down there. It's your brain. You are the only person that can pull yourself out. So the cookie jar is a tool to remind you of who the fuck you really are in a bad time.
Wow, I like that. Now, you also mentioned this concept called the jar of fuck.
That's life. Life is a jar of fuck. And that's why I believe that you must win the war every morning. Win the war every morning is this. There's a lot of things in life that we can control, but we choose not to. An example. Let's say tomorrow, you now set in your mind you get up at fucking 6 o'clock in the morning. Okay? That alarm clock goes off at 6 o'clock in the morning. But you went to bed at 1 o'clock. Your first instinct is, whatever I said yesterday, I was comfortable. It was a nice day yesterday. I made this fucking plan at 8 o'clock at night, watching TV with my fucking girlfriend and drinking a fucking milkshake. Now it's 6 o'clock in the fucking morning. I'm tired. That's that motivation shit at 8 o'clock. That motivation's gone. You hit that snooze button, you've now lost the war. The one thing you can control, you've lost. Already lost. So then, you snooze. Let's say you get up at 6:45 now, because you snooze a few times. You go in the shower, now your day's all late, you started, so now you feel a little guilty now, you fucking missed your workout. You go in the shower, you're running late for work now. So now, all these things you can control, now once you open that door of your apartment or your house, you're now in the real fucking world. And guess what the real world's gonna do? It's gonna fuck you up. You'll get to work, the boss may not like you that day, he may be fucking mad. So the whole thing about the jar of fuck, you must win the war in the morning. So then when you go into life that you cannot control, you've already mentally won so many battles early in the fucking morning. So you're going into fucking war having already won something. So you're not going to war defeated. You're going to war knowing I did my push-ups, I did my sit-ups, I read, I meditated. Whatever the fuck you do, you're prepared for what the fuck life is going to bring you. But most of us, we walk into war with no fucking weapon. And the weapon is this. The weapon is this. We haven't sharpened it. If you go into a fire and you don't sharpen that fucking blade, I'm a wildland firefighter. We use a tool called Pulaski. If you don't sharpen the fucking point of that fucking Pulaski, and you start digging in fucking rock, it's gonna be a hard ass dig. If you keep that fucker nice and sharp, like your mind, every war you go into, you get a better chance of survival. But we fuck up in the morning. We don't win what we can win. We leave our house a mess. We leave our life a mess. And that's how our life becomes. A fucking mess.
So get those victories straight up in the morning.
There's so many morning victories that we have that we just fucking fail to take advantage of.
Can I ask, what do you do in the morning?
Every single morning, the first thing I do is I get up in the morning time and I run. The one thing I hate the fucking most is running. So if I'm attacking the thing I hate the most, I go home, I put a fucking chip right in the jar, in the mental jar. I fucking won already, motherfucker. I've already won. I've already beat myself. So the only person that you're fighting every day is yourself. It's not your boss. It's not this or that. Yeah, those are all obstacles. A lot of them you cannot control those obstacles, but you can control yourself. You can control how you start your fucking day. But a lot of us choose not to do that.
Now it sounds like you're talking about really embracing the dark side, right?
Yes.
What do you say to critics who say, look, your lifestyle is never going to make someone happy?
So a lot of people read my face and they say, you know, you're stoic, you're not happy, you're not this, you're not that, you talk so much darkness. What people don't understand is that enlightenment, peace, you first must go through hell. You first must go through suffering to find that great peace we're all looking for. A lot of us want to have, there's a lot of books out there about this 5 steps. Do this, do this, do this, get there. No, man, it's not that easy. To find real, permanent peace and enlightenment, you must go to the dark side of who you are. I could have easily just shoved my whole life under a rug and went straight to peace. Are you happy there? You overcame nothing. You jumped hell, you skipped hell, you forego this part of your life, you skip it and go right to peace. So you always have this thing back here that's haunting you, and that's that darkness. You must go into the darkness to truly find that light that you're looking for, because that's what's on the other side of that. People get it all wrong, man. You have to face suffering. You have to face this dark side, this darkness. And there's a lot of energy in there. There's a lot of goodness in there that you can use to find greatness. But you cannot find your peace you're looking for in yourself until you overcome yourself. We all, like this whole Instagram world, we love showing people this world that we have, this fake world that we show everybody the good side of us. I don't do that shit. I want to show you how fucked up I am so you can fucking learn. I'm not going to learn from your great big house and your trips you go on and your beautiful shoes. We all love to see what people have, their nice shit. Show me your ugly shit. That's what I'm going to learn. I'm going to learn from the dark, nasty shit that we all have, that we all wanted to scoot under a fucking rug and say doesn't exist. We all have it. This is just my story. We all have it. So the only way to fucking overcome it is to face it. Deal with it, overcome it.
Now you said this, I created Goggins, the guy who can take everything. I'm comfortable being very unfucking comfortable. Mm-hmm. Tell us about that.
So, like I talk about a lot, when I came up, I was born David Goggins. David Goggins was a young man, young kid, that didn't really know true reality. Was a kid that wasn't able to handle a lot of things. Me knowing that my foundation was broken, I had to rebuild a whole foundation. I had to pick up this fucking crooked ass house, that was me, pick it up with one hand, get all this fucking concrete, I had to fucking lay this fucking land nice and flat, get all this shit out, and rebuild this foundation and lay this fucking house back on a nice foundation. That foundation now is Goggins. I had to recreate myself to a man that I wanted to be. Not what the world made me. Not what life made me. Life made me a scared, timid, insecure, afraid kid. And when you're a man and you look at that mirror every fucking day of your life and you do not like the reflection in it, if you choose to live in that, that is your fault. We have the ability to recreate ourselves. And I decided to recreate myself in the form of Goggins. And that is a person that I said, I'm not going to be this guy that's insecure, afraid, all this sort of stuff. I want to be this guy. I want to be my own hero. I want to be a guy that I look up to. I want to see me and be proud of me. I want to look in that reflection and be proud of me. But the only way I'm going to do that is all that big shackle of shit, that big satchel of shit that my life had to start emptying it. And David Goggins couldn't do that. That's much too frightening, man. Goggins had to go back there and say, I got this shit. Let's go. Let's man the fuck up. So that's where Goggins comes from. It's a person I had to create to start handling how to fix David Goggins.
And that's the important thing, right? You're not saying celebrate yourself or embrace your authenticity and none of that garbage. No. You're saying, look, we have shit we have to deal with.
Yes.
We got to figure out who we want to be.
Yes.
We got to make sure that the foundation of that house is stable.
That's right.
And then we got to move in that direction through the suffering.
I'm not saying go in your own ass and kiss it by any means. That's not it. I'm not saying, I am saying love yourself, be proud of yourself, but you have to be able to go back and fix your life. No one's going to help you out. No one. Like, I believe there's a lot of theorists out there. There's theorists that go into a library, take a lot of classes, read a lot of books on the mind. They read about the mind. They know how it's supposed to work in situations. I became a practitioner. And a practitioner is a person that doesn't read about it, actually does it, and then studies it while he's in it. So my knowledge doesn't come from reading a book that someone wrote that says this is how it's supposed to be. Someone that never even lived it, but they read about it somewhere. And they took that theory, made another theory, another theory, another theory. I'm the practitioner who said, you know what? I'm going to go in hell with my notebook and my pen. And I'm going to sit in this motherfucker. And I'm going to see what my mind does here, how my mind processes. But instead of leaving hell, because you can't get any data that way. There's no data when you leave. The real fucking answers come when you stay. So I have to stay here to get the answers to what's going on up here. So everything I talk about is not something that I read, it's something that I lived. And I got the chance to go back through my mind and see how my mind operated in hell. And that's how I got these answers. By saying, oh man, when it was hour 72 of Hell Week, and I had another fucking 2 days to go, and my body was broken, all I wanted to do was leave, what made me stay? Well, how did you stay? So I figured out what the mind was doing. It starts asking you all these questions. And a lot of theorists don't understand that. A lot of theorists don't really know what the mind is doing in there. They read about it, but I'll tell you what it does. Because I became a practitioner. I know what the mind does in hell. I know how to process all those questions your mind's answering. It's asking tons of questions. Why are you here? It's cold. It's miserable. Go home to your wife. Get a good meal. Do this, do that. If you cannot answer those questions that your mind is throwing at you at rapid fucking pace, you will quit. A theorist will not tell you that. A practitioner will say, yes, it will do that. But I will give you the answers to every fucking question your mind is giving you in hell. If you have the answers, you stay. You stay right where you're at and you graduate and you succeed. No answers, you always quit.
Now it sounds like there's almost two minds within you.
Yes.
There's the normal human mind,
that we all
which is
have.
trying to avoid pain.
Yes.
Right? And then there's this other Goggins character,
yes,
who's a fucking badass, who overrides
yes,
that natural human mind. Now, where's that coming from? Is it your athletic training? Is it the military? Is it your fucked up childhood? Where did that ability of yours come from?
So I always had this voice in my head from a young kid. We all have a voice. I'm a spiritual guy. I don't go to church, but I believe in something much bigger than David Goggins. And I believe that voice is God. And a lot of us listen to it, a lot of us don't. And that voice in me was saying to myself, you're better than this. But I didn't want to go there. Didn't want to deal with that. Didn't want to answer those questions right now. Wasn't ready for that. And there are two Davids. There's David Goggins and there's Goggins. And most of us have this one person. And that one person guides us in the direction of least resistance. So we never grow. In building Goggins, I had to have someone pull me from that person that quits when times get hard. I had to form another person alongside that voice, because that voice wasn't strong enough for me. I had to formulate someone that had the reality, the real reality of at the other end of this, there's a big reward. But you cannot see that unless you push past all of that. And David Goggins didn't have that. So I realized that I want to see what's on the other side of this fucking mountain. How can I do that? So sitting back, I couldn't just read a book. All these theories weren't going to make me do that. Like I said, once again, it's easy to read a book and get confidence. But once you're in hell, that confidence is gone because now it's you and you. So I had to build me up. I had to be my own person that had all the answers to all these questions. Because I didn't have them. David Goggins didn't have them. All I had was, oh my God, this is getting bad. When I was growing up, they called me nigger. I'm not good enough. Oh, this isn't, when I was raised, my dad beat the hell out of me. He said I wasn't going to be anybody. That's where I used to go. When times got hard, it's called surface training. It's called surface training. My last 2 years in the military, they had this program called Buds Prep. A lot of guys weren't getting through Navy SEAL training, so they designed a program to get you ready for Navy SEAL training. So I was called upon to go there for my last 2 years in the military before I retired. And we were training these fucking hybrids. Guys that could fucking run and fucking jump and swim fast as shit. They were smoking the hell out of all the shit that prepared you for Navy SEAL training. Hybrids. But the numbers never changed. The same numbers were the same. So I went back to my head and said, what's going on here? We were training bigger, stronger, faster quitters. Why is that? Because so many people are afraid to go to the one spot that truly changes your life.
And what spot is that?
It's not this. It's this. We weren't training this. We were training this. The push-ups, the pull-ups, the swimming. We weren't training mentality. We weren't getting to the root cause of the quitter. The root cause of the quitter isn't that you can't do 100 fucking push-ups. You can train anybody to do that. The root cause of the quitter is when you get in hell, you can't process it. It's too much to process. Because your mind starts going back to the real reality of like, I'm not ready. I'm not good enough. It's not trained. So I started training this, realizing that the only thing that makes me quit is not the muscle fatigue, it's the mental fatigue that makes me quit everything in life. So I became a practitioner of the mind.
Wow.
And that's where Goggins comes up.
Now you said, so it's almost as if your mind eats suffering and turns it into fuel.
It has to. It has to, because I realized that without it, there was no success. I wasn't succeeding. I wasn't succeeding. There was no success. And people will take what I say totally fucking wrong, and that's fine. You don't have to fucking like me, because I finally like myself. The thing about it, I challenge people to go out there and find it. The feeling you have is endless.
And you know, you said this, I was not guided by something on this earth. I was guided by something even more powerful. I lived the life of a monk.
Yes. A lot of us are very surface nowadays, especially nowadays. We are so obsessed with computers and phones and everything. Our minds are the most powerful fucking weapon on the fucking earth. I started realizing this at a young age. But most of us go so far away from it because we're stuck on how many likes did I get? How many this, how many that? We're stuck here, so our mind's unable to fucking work. I realized for me to find myself, I had to live my life. No, I'm not a monk. I'm not a monk, but I live my discipline. My self-discipline of my life is very monk-like because I'm trying to leave this earth. Have you ever, do you use a washcloth when you bathe, or do you use soap?
Soap.
You use soap. Some of us use washcloths. So imagine this. Visualize this. Visualize you took a shower. You lathered that washcloth all up. You took a shower, nice shower. Now you're done. You let the water hit that washcloth to get that suds out, right? Mm-hmm. Now you want to wring that fucker out, right? Nice and tight so it doesn't drip on the floor. That rag that you just fucking were wringing out, I want that to be my soul, my mind. I want there to be nothing left of David Goggins when I'm done. So most of us, I believe, die at 40%. That's all that we've given. and we believe it's our 100%. That's why my book, in the back of it, I describe the 40% rule, something I invented. And I believe, as I talk about, in something much bigger than David Goggins. A lot of people don't, I do. And I think that when you die, this is just my own mindset, that you arrive in line. It helps me to get past a lot of things. You arrive in line, and let's say you're in front. Let's say you die right before me, and you're in line, and God's sitting there with the clipboard, okay? Sitting there with the clipboard, like me and you're sitting right now. He's looking at you, and he says, hey, you made it to heaven, good job, okay? And then he shows you the clipboard of what your life should have been. So you live this life that you thought you pushed so hard. Then you look at the clipboard. Let's say myself. This is now me. I'm talking about myself now. And let's say I got to heaven weighing 300 pounds. I was a guy that worked for Ecolab, which is a guy that kills cockroaches for a living, which is fine. It's a job. But then I look at this, and that's how I died. I look at this, and it says on here what I should have been, because God's all-knowing, right? I look at this, and it said you should have been 185 pounds. You should have broke Guinness Book of World Records. You should have been a Navy SEAL. You should have been this. You should have been that. You should have lived this great life. You should have been an inspiration. You should have inspired millions. And then you give the clipboard back to God. Let's say you lived 80 years on Earth, and now you realize that you lived here being a shell of who the fuck you should have been. So now you're in heaven. But are you really in heaven? Because now you see how much you fucking left down there on Earth. So now your fucking mind now knows. Because I was afraid to suffer. Because I was afraid to go there. I could easily right now, you could never know who the fuck David Goggins is right now. You could never know me. I could be back in Brazil, Indiana, Indianapolis, Indiana, spraying for cockroaches at the fucking local restaurant. You should never fucking know me if I chose the route most of us choose. There'd be no fucking story. It'd be a normal story. What's your son doing, Jackie? Oh, he's 43. He's been working for Ecolab for 20 years. How's he doing? Good. He's doing good. His wife and kid. Never fucking knowing. I could be right the fuck here right now with the fucking book coming out about what I accomplished. But I had a decision to make at 24 years old.
Wow. That metaphor of heaven is one of the most powerful things I've heard in the last couple of months. That's thought changing, David.
Well, it's truth.
The final thing I want to ask you is, one thing I notice about you is you are unapologetically you. You are David Goggins, right? And you don't give a fuck about how anyone else thinks of you or judges you or how other people show up. One of my favorite quotes of you is, do you. I let you do you, and I don't judge people, and I'm all about doing you because I'm fucking going to do me. And I'm going to do me till I'm fucking dead, because I earned that right.
That's right.
Let's talk about that for a moment. How do we become so authentic, so real to ourselves, right? And, you know, we spoke about transformational theorists. Transformation theorists define authenticity as this. It's a decrease in our need for other people to validate us. It is an increase in our self-worth, and it's having a clearer personal vision. Now, you embody all of that.
Right.
But where's that coming from? What would be your advice for other people to embody that?
My biggest kryptonite I ever had in my life was caring about what the fuck anybody thinks about me. Biggest kryptonite. It kept me fucking shackled in my mind. It kept me so fucking shackled because I cared. Oh my God, like for instance, I guarantee you, I'm gonna hear a ton of shit about, he cusses so much. Can you say your message without fucking cussing? If my life coming up was better, I would. I would. It would give me a different tone. It'd give me a different reality about what life is. But it wasn't that way. This is what the fuck it was. It sucked. It was hard. It was difficult. Overcame it. The strength I get from truly, like you said, the theorists. I love theorists. Talk about being unapologetic, being authentic. Most theorists, I guarantee you, man, it's a word they're saying. They go home and wish they could be what the fuck they say. When you lie a lot growing up, you start to develop a very false reality. I wanted that false reality to be real. I wanted to really not give a fuck about people. I always said it. I don't give a fuck. You know, that's the tough guy coming out. I don't give a fuck what people think about me. I wanted to really be there. Because in the day, This is how I look at it. What are people doing for you? Are they paying your bills? No. You are going to do whatever you have to do to succeed. They need to do them. You need to do you. And the worst thing you can ever do, what makes a person shackled, is worrying about, if I sat here and worried right now during this interview, every word I would say would be thought about. I would say, oh man, I can't say that, I'm going to offend them. And I'm going to offend them. And I'm going to offend them. And I'm going to offend them. You can see it in people. They're robots. They're programmed to say things that are just right here. When you lived a hard life, a life that you suffered, a life that you overcame, no one helped me in this shit. No one came and fucking helped me out. So why the fuck do I care what you think about me? No one handed me shit. I had to fucking invent a way to succeed. So if I sit in this fucking chair right now and watch what the fuck I say because someone's fucking offended, what the fuck did I really live for? What I live, I'm giving them all the fucking credit. No, I created David fucking Goggins. Yes, God help me. But no one else came to fucking save me. So why am I gonna fucking watch what the fuck I say and care how I fucking say it?
Love that, David. Thank you so much for joining us in Mind Valley.
Appreciate it.
This is, by the way, love your passion, love your intensity. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I was riveted, and you speak with such passion. It's exemplary, really.
Well, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me.